students! Today we are visiting a university where the scientists are developing genetically modified rice tolerant to salinity.
I am excited to see GM rice that is tolerant to salinity.
What is salinity?
Salinity is a condition that is rich in salt, and you know it is not good for crops.
But I don't think we need GM rice. It might not be safe.
My father is a farmer and he suffers a lot due to salinity in the soil during the dry season. He says the soil becomes not suitable for the rice. My father loses a lot of money.
Let us wait until we hear from the scientists.
Hello girls and boys, welcome to our lab.
Good morning, Professor Biosafety, Professor Agri and Biotech. We are excited to learn about your research on GM rice that is tolerant to salinity.
Before that, I want to know if we really need this in Sri Lanka.
That is a very good question, Nalini. Let me explain. Rice is the most sensitive cereal to salinity or salt level in the soil. Yield can be reduced so much with just a small change in the salinity in the soil. Soil salinity is an enormous problem in coastal regions and in dry areas in Sri Lanka. Do you know that 11,200 hectares of coastal lands are affected and more than 50% of the coastal rice fields have been abandoned due to salinity?
What causes salinity in soil?
It is due to drought, poor drainage, improper irrigations, climate change, and seawater intrusion.
All these are huge challenges for Sri Lankan farmers.
I didn't know it was such a big problem in Sri Lanka. But I'm still worried about all the risk of GM crops. I read about it on the internet.
Do you know that our country was the first in the world to carry out the screening and cultivation of salt-tolerant rice varieties? The first salt-tolerant rice variety was Pokali in 1939.
Really? I am so proud.
We already have a salinity-tolerant variety. Why do we need a GM variety now?
We are now working on our improved variety, which is called BG250, that gives high-quality grains, resistance to leaf blast, bacterial leaf blight, thrips, and brown plant hopper. These are all major rice diseases in Sri Lanka. In a year, farmers harvest 3 times with BG250. It is an ultra-short duration variety that matures in about 80 days. Because of all of these advantages, our farmers love to grow BG250 compared to Pokali. Pokali is tolerant to salinity but doesn't give good yield. Let us listen to Professor Biotech about how we develop the GM rice, then we will discuss the risks.
Now do you understand why we need to convert the salinity trait into BG250? We are still at a very early stage of this research. It will take many years for this research to complete. When we develop GM varieties, we choose the most popular commercial variety.
That is really interesting. I think my father grows BG250 too. So, how do you make BG250 tolerant to salinity?
The salinity-tolerant gene was identified from a weed called Arabidopsis. We then identified the similar gene in other rice variety and transferred into BG250 local rice. Our early-stage research showed the GM BG250 rice is tolerant to salinity. When we develop a GM crop, we must always develop the trait in a popular commercial trait that already have other beneficial qualities.
I read that GM crops are not safe to us and the environment.
I understand your concerns. And we also list all those possible adverse effects and do very meticulous analysis to make sure the risks are well managed. For food and feed safety, we analyze the new gene that we want to insert. We make sure that it does not cause any toxicity, allergic reactions, or any other health issues to both humans and animals. We cannot proceed with the research if our analysis shows there might be any food safety issues.
Do you see any negative impact in BG250?
We have not yet conducted risk assessment with BG250. To identify both negative or positive impacts, we have to conduct risk assessment. After analyzing the results of the risk assessment, we send all reports to the regulatory agency if we are satisfied with its safety. The regulatory agency will review and approve it once they find it to be safe.
Then how about the negative impact to the environment? Isn't this a new variety? And we have to be careful before introducing it to the environment. Sri Lanka has a very diverse environment.
Yes, you are right, Nalini. We are still at a very early stage of research. At a later stage, we will conduct risk assessment to check whether there are any unidentified effects to the wildlife like birds, insects, and even to the soil and soil organisms. We will also check if it changes the plant's characteristics like height, roots, flowers, pollen flow, and disease and pest resistance. These risk assessments will be conducted following the national guidelines.
I'm happy to hear that. So who approves it?
The focal point for Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety in Sri Lanka is the Ministry of Environment. The Central Environment Authority is the national competent authority, and departments like Agriculture, Health, Animal Production and Health, Fisheries and Aquatic Resources and Wildlife will also be involved in the risk assessment.
We understand now how GM crops are developed and tested. Thank you so much. I hope our farmers, like my father, may have better rice varieties in the future.
Thank you. I feel more confident now with GM crops.
Thank you for hosting us, Professor Agri, Professor Biotech, and Professor Biosafety.
Thank you for visiting us.
You can also visit this link for more information on biosafety in Sri Lanka. lk.biosafetyclearinghouse.net